Hello everyone, hope you're doing well. Today in War Thunder it is time to have a look at a devblog for update 1.91. Yes, the British helicopters are finally coming, and they're coming in quite a big way and kind of a surprising way, which is very, very positive, at least in my opinion. We have a devblog for the Lynx AH Mark.1 and also the G Lynx, which is going to be the premium version of the helicopters which you're able to buy and go through the British tree with. Now, the G Lynx is quite a nice aircraft to have as the premium, since it is the one which was able to set the world record for the fastest helicopter, so you can understand that it's going to be very agile and maneuverable behind it. And what's nice about this devblog as well is it gives us some idea of what the whole tree is going to look like. After having a look through it, I can safely say that this isn't going to be like the Japanese, which only got the AH-1S and nothing else. This is going to be what seems to be a full British helicopter tech tree, which is lovely to see. So it means that parity will of course be added to the game in the form of the tech tree, and also it means that we should get quite a lot of fun little machines. The Lynx is a machine which is going to be very similar to the AH-1G or the Huey or the Mi-24, meaning that there's going to be a few versions of it in the British tech tree. And it's going to be the mainstay with just different armaments on it, which is completely fine. So let's have a look through the Lynx AH Mark.1 and also the G Lynx, and also understand, because of the way that this devblog is worded in certain parts, it can get a little bit confusing working out what they're actually talking about, which helicopter they're talking about. But luckily, the actual store page for the G Lynx does clear pretty much everything up. So the main thing to take away from this devblog is that the Lynx itself is a machine which has quite a decent amount of power behind it in the form of engine power. It has two Rolls-Royce Gem 2A turboshaft engines with almost 900 horsepower each. It's able to go 273 kilometers an hour in level flight, and it's also incredibly maneuverable. So they are trying to sell it just like they did the German aircraft, the BR-105s, where they're quite powerful in the form that they're agile and they have a lot of speed behind them, but they don't have anything which can actually keep them alive. So once they're hit hard, and therefore there's no real armor, there's nothing to keep you alive in that regard. So instead of having to worry about trying to survive a hit, the idea is not to get hit in the first place. Now, in the current iteration of War Thunder in ground forces, that's probably not the easiest thing to do in a helicopter, especially now that you have better radar-guided AA. You also have the fact of surface-to-air missiles walking around, but I'm sure it can be done. And I'm sure people will do it to great effect when it comes to this new update, trying to grind out these new vehicles. The AH Mark.1 as well, so the fact that it's able to do loops and rolls without much difficulty sounds very fun. To me, at least, the way that the the AH Mark.1 is described sounds incredibly just interesting to me. Instead of a vehicle which is described more about its armaments, they put a lot of effort into talking about its design and how it's going to fly, and then the armament comes secondary. But if you have a look at the armament, it's nothing to scoff at. The armament looks incredibly nice as well. One of the problems with a lot of the aircraft in the game right now, especially if you have a look at the Gazelles from the French, which are the late tier, helicopters for the French, or if you have a look at the BR-105s, which of course are the late tier ones for the Germans, excluding the Mi-24, of course. What you find is machines which are incredibly dedicated to only really one role, which is the anti-tank role, and it seems like what we're getting with the Lynx is more of a vehicle which is suited for separate or multiple roles at the same time, very much similar to something like an AH-1Z or an Mi-35M, which is great because it means it's going to be useful in the idea of the normal helicopter battles. It means that it can defend itself instead of just being a machine which carries 80 gems. It should have a little bit, else to it. And the main reason behind that is the different weaponry that it's able to carry. So as you can see from this picture, you have 80 gems in the form of Hellfires. Then of course you have a 20mm alongside it. Then you have rockets and these little things, which we'll get into. And then you have tows, and I believe they're in the form of the TOW 2s for the AH Mark.1. And then, once again, these air-to-air missiles. Then, as you can see here, you have the oh, I've forgotten their name. I literally just said it. The Hellfires. There we go. You have the Hellfires on it, and also maybe something else as well. So there's going to be multiple different sets of armaments which you can take, but the main thing is you're able to take these separate armament together. So you're able to take air-to-air missiles and also 80 gems. So you're able to take a sufficient amount to be able to kill enemy aircraft or kill enemy helicopters, and also kill stuff on the ground, or just take a 20mm alongside your ACGMs if you want to have a bit of fun in a little bit of a dogfight. So there are options with this thing. So what are the air-to-airs that this machine is going to have? And as I said, you can see them right here. Well, these are Stinger missiles. Stinger missiles are an interesting thing that we've talked about before. And by the way, the difference you can tell which is which. If you have a look at this picture, it says G Lynx on it. So you can see, we're talking about the Lynx. And then if you look at some of these pictures, there is no G Lynx on it. So these are the AH Mark.1, and then these here are the G Lynx version, the premium version that is around. But yeah, the fact is that Stingers are now here in the game. A interesting and contentious addition, I'd definitely say. A lot of people have talked a lot of the time over the last few months about the Stingers, and the reason is because the Stingers are definitely a step up compared to what we already have. These air-to-air missiles are able to go Mach 2.2 or 750 meters per second, and the main reason why they're an upgrade is because of their tracking systems. They are fire and forget missiles, and what they have is a passive infrared seeker for the Block 1 style of missiles, and then for the Block 2 style of missiles, they have a fire and forget passive IR focal plane array seeker, meaning that they are even more powerful in their seeking out of the target. So once you've fired these, you don't have to worry about them. They just go off and hit whatever you want them to. And then they also have a range of 8 kilometers. So these are not low-range missiles. So they're fast. They have a decent range compared to a lot of other missiles in the game, and also they're fire and forget. So these are the major upgrades that we see coming to the British helicopter tree, and I think adding them to the helicopter is probably the way to go, just to make sure to test them out and see if it's worth it or not to add it to other machines, or will they be too overpowered, or will they be not good enough, all of these things, because the fact is there are a lot of vehicles that use these Stingers, including some ground vehicles. This is a Gepard which has Stingers attached to it. You can see 2 at least in the picture. I'm guessing there are 2 on the other side. So the thing is, this isn't just an idea which could be added to the Lynx. This is an idea that could be spread around. There's also a bunch of American helicopters that could carry the Stingers as well. So yeah, that's something you've got to think about alongside the British helicopters getting it. What if other machines get them as well? So overall, the Lynx AH Mark.1, which I think is going to be the top tier vehicle for the British is looking really nice. Access to ATGMs, access to air-to-air missiles, and it's not like the Gazelles and only having access to 4, maximum munitions in total. We're seeing a lot of munitions, including, 8 overall, and also air-to-air missiles in tow, so it's looking a lot more powerful. Is it on the same level as the H1Z or the Mi-35M? Well, it still doesn't have the same armament as them, it still isn't up there with the 16 idea, but at least it is more comparable than what we've seen from the French and the German tech trees. Looking also at something else which is mentioned in the Devblog, it talks about how this machine was developed from the Westland Scout and also the Wasp, which of course it was. And since, at least in my opinion, the AH Mark.1 is going to be the top vehicle, if they don't add in something which is slightly better than it on the naval front of things. The interesting thing about the Wasp and the Scout is they could easily be the starter vehicle for the tech tree. So we might actually see a hint here into what the starter vehicle actually is. And if you don't know what the Western Scout is, well, it's this little thing. And it's very much like the starter vehicle for the Germans, where it's light, it's nimble, and it also has access to SS-11s, and 4 of them in total. Now, whenever I've read about the Scouts, it's carried 2 SS-11s, but for some reason this picture has it carrying at least 4, 2 on each side, and it does have racks to carry 4. So therefore, I've got a feeling that it is able to carry 4, but for some reason the literature just says 2, even though my eyes may deceive me, Obanquo. But the main thing with it is that this would be very comparable to the starter German helicopter. The only issue is it doesn't have that secondary armament in the form of machine guns. It would only be stuck as a machine which could fire, the SS-11. So it wouldn't be the best to get somebody into ground forces, but what it would be is a lower tier BRD vehicle which could get an individual into it, which maybe didn't try it again, because in my opinion helicopters need some form of ATGM to be useful in ground forces. The only one which bucks this trend is the AH1G, and as you'll find if you play around the ATO BR bracket for the Americans, you have to find a pretty good AH1G pilot to actually do anything. And if you do find a decent one, normally they get 1 or 2 or maybe 3 kills, and then they get shot down. So the fact is, if you want something to be more useful, the ATGMs is the way to go. It does mean that you will get up BR'd, which is also an issue, and I'm sure that this will be 9.0, even though it only has access to SS-11s. But then, at some point we can talk about the structure of BR of helicopters and how maybe some of them are a little bit overrated compared to others. So this is the G Lynx. It's the main video that you see here, and also having a look at the Guardian StoreNet page. There is actually 2 of them. So you've got the G Lynx itself, which is $49.99. You get 15 days worth of premium and 2,000 Golden Eagles. So if you take them away, you're looking at about $30 for this vehicle overall. If you take away the additions, then you get the title, the Silver Cat, and the decal, the Lynx. Now the decal is normally sat up here. For some reason it isn't. It's actually sat down here. And I've got to say, I would say this is a weak decal. This decal is not great. It doesn't seem that there's been a ton of effort put into it, I would say, at least compared to some of the other ones. Like, if you actually, let's go to the store and have a look at a few of the other vehicles on offer, because at least to me, when I compare it to some of the others, such as, well, they might have already got rid of them all, actually, because they're not pre-order bonuses or anything like that. Yeah, it seems like, unfortunately, they've gone away. But the fact is, if I compare this to some of the other ones, it definitely is a lot weaker. than the others. So even though I normally don't put in the decal to the overall price, this one I definitely wouldn't put in. So what's the the G Lynx about? Well, as we said, it's once again a multi-purpose helicopter for both naval and battlefield usage, and it entered service in 1978. The difference between the G Lynx and the AH Mark.1 is that the premium version will have a higher maximum flight speed of 320 kilometers an hour, so quite a big upgrade over the AH Mark.1 variant. And the G Lynx model can be equipped with a 20mm Oerlikon CAD-B cannon, unguided rocket armament in the form of 70mm Hydras, Hydra 70s, up to 8 AGMs of either TOW-2 type or Hellfire, and 4 air-to-air homing missiles in the form of the AIM-92 Stinger. And the various number of weapon loadouts allows you to combine the optimal set to perform any task on the battlefield. And then we have some pictures here of it. Here it is with the air-to-air missiles and, of course, the rockets that it was talking about. So therefore, it seems you can combine pretty much all of the different loadouts which are possible, which is, great. It's how it should be. But the main difference between the G Lynx and the main difference between the G Lynx and the AH Mark.1 is that this one is faster. Now, will that change its BR? Well, we see in ground forces, and we see in the helicopter battles and helicopters in general that the BRs are very strict for helicopters. Pretty much, if you don't have ATGMs, it's going to be around 8.0. If you do have ATGMs, it's probably going to be around 9.0 to 10.0. And the only question is, where do you put it 9.0 to 10.0? And since these machines, like the G Lynx and like the AH Mark.1, have access to multiple sets of ATGMs and also air-to-air missiles, I'd be very surprised if both of these aren't 9.7 or 10.0. And I'm pretty sure these are going to both be the same BR because the difference between them, the actual flight speed itself, I don't think is a big enough advantage for the Lynx. Even though it is an advantage, so it is technically paying for power. If the only machine at its BR is the AH Mark.1, if they are at the same BR, obviously we don't know yet. So it is at least a little bit worrying in that regard, but it's not a huge deal compared to some of the other monstrosities that we have in the game, such as the premium destroyers, which are just flat out better versions of their tech tree counterparts. If the AH Mark.1 is sat somewhere at like 9.7, and then the Lynx is sat at 10.0, or if 9.0 and 9.3, then I think, we're in business. We can start talking about the balance of the machines, because the G Lynx is just a better AH Mark.1 in its entirety. The other store offer is a bundle, 30% off, and of the Shock Cal Delay and also the G Lynx. So you can get them together in a pack for $76.99. And also remember, if you already have the Shock Cal Delay pack, that just means that you basically get 30% off the G Lynx pack by itself. So it's a nice little bonus if you have already got it. So if you want to pick it up and you already have the Shock Cal Delay, make sure to pick up this pack instead of this one, because you'll get yourself a nice little discount. And also, on top of it, the Shock Cal Delay is a very nice vehicle. It's an 8.3 premium, and it will get upticked quite a lot into 8.7 and 9.0 and 9.3, but its gun is definitely capable enough to keep it alive. Doesn't have the same speed as other premiums around the BR, but does have some interesting ERA that can get you out of a lot of issues. And also, the Centurion is a generally good, stable gun platform to be able to build off of. So if you're looking for a machine to grind through the British tree, the Shock Cal Delay isn't a bad option. It's the best premium, in my opinion, when it comes to value in the British tech tree. The only one which even comes close is the STRV, the RB52, and even then the RB52 struggles with the amount of damage the main round does. So I definitely think the Shock Cal Delay is the way to go. So yeah, this is looking incredibly promising when it comes to the British tech tree. I was a little bit worried that what we would get is some lower tier Lynxes which would only have access to very limited weaponry, very much similar to the French and the Germans, but these vehicles are looking much more like the Americans and the Soviet ones in the game. So I'm confident, at least, that these Lynxes will at least leave a mark in the game, which is more positive than negative. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you next time. I'd just like to thank Ambrosius McClellan, B. Young, Blackie, Daniel Stanton, John Ryman, Joseph Anders, Martinez, Mopar 1969, Moxie, Super Cacti, Uyans Terry, and Elove Goats, and of course Seductive Trash Can for supporting the channel.